Good evening. This is your FPL news with me, Rocky and Chester. Today is the 31st of December 2021 and it's approximately 10 o'clock. I haven't got anything better to do on New Year's Eve because I'm sad, apparently. Your main headlines for today. Over the last couple of days, Leicester shock win over Liverpool as Salah misses his penalty. How big are the hammers? Are they massive? They hammer Crystal Palace 4-1. Is Bowen now essential? Southampton frustrate Spurs in 1-1 draw, but still Kane and Son combine to get a goal and assist respectively. Welbeck and Brighton frustrate Chelsea with a 1-1 draw with them late the other night. And in City's 1-0 win over Brentford, Foden finally allowed off the naughty step to return for a nice tap-in 1-0 over Brentford. Palace beat Norwich 3-0, with Edouard being the main man with a goal and 2 assists. And Man United finally get their scoring boots, scoring 3 goals in a win over Burnley. And finally, the double game weeks have been announced on New Year's Eve. So I hope you're all having a good Christmas period. And happy New Year's Eve to you. So yeah, it's been a busy couple of days, hasn't it, for us in the FPL community. I think just starting from the top there, Leicester were massively pegged to be underdogs, whipping boys, as they played an in-form Liverpool, many of us capping Salah, and also many of us who had sold Salah to get Ronaldo in the previous game hiding behind the sofas. And I think it's fair to say it was a let-off for Salah sellers. Fair dues to people who captained anyone who wasn't Salah, those being rewarded. The people who captained the likes of Foden, Sterling, Ronaldo, and I think a couple of Mavericks who captained Bowen as well. So are Leicester back? Have Liverpool now gone off the boil? I'm not sure. I think both wait and sees, but obviously that was quite disappointing for those of us who were looking forward to that game and Salah getting some good points before Chelsea and then going away for the African Cup of Nations. So I think we'll come back on that one shortly. West Ham, they've had a couple of blips over the last fortnight or so, I think, but back to their best with a 4-1 win over Crystal Palace. Only the assist for Antonio, rewarding some of us who have been loyal to him for the last few weeks. But it was Bowen who stole the show with a hat-trick of assists, and he's looking red hot. So I've put the question, is he essential? We'll have a look a little later. Southampton, don't know if anyone saw the game, but fantastic strike from their main man in that one to frustrate Spurs. Southampton went at 1-0, and it was actually Spurs who had to fight back in, and it was the classic Son and Kane combination that managed to draw level. I think Conte will be disappointed with the draw. We'll have a closer look at Son. The Chelsea-Brighton game, I watched this on Prime, and Chelsea played okay, but it definitely felt like a game where they needed to get another goal or more to wrap it up. They were looking quite toothless in attack, and again we'll come on to that. But yeah, I saw a few tweets about it, and it was great to see Welbeck come off and score in added time, even as an Alonso owner, as a Chelsea defender owner. Fair play to Brighton. So Chelsea going through a little bit of a blip here and kind of falling off the pace with City marching in first. The City game as well, which I was sort of flicking between the two. They were in full flow. It was a surprise it wasn't. It was kept at 1. Brentford, to be fair to them, gave it a good go. But as a Jesus and a Bernardo Silva owner, it was quite worrying. And I'll go into that in a bit more detail later. But Foden looking like the main man, getting into great positions, and KDB, Kevin De Bruyne, looks like he's back to his best as well. Palace beat Norwich 3-0. Edouard, the main man. Again, if you're in the Twitter FPL community, felt like every man and his dog had this guy, which is quite impressive considering it was a 3-0 victory without the likes of Zaha. So Palace continuing with their good stats and marching on there. And finally, Man United, considering the easy fixtures United have had with poor results against Norwich and Newcastle. As a Man United fan myself, it was good to see us return with a win. Actually, Scott McTominay having a fantastic game, and Cristiano Ronaldo with a goal and an assist to his name. And then, yeah, just to recap, the double game week was announced a few hours ago, and it's been chaos, and we'll cover that in a few minutes as well. Okay, so moving on in more detail, primarily really on the City front here. After having watched the majority of the City game, as a Jesus and Bernardo Silva owner, it was really quite worrying. Jesus playing wide on the right, almost like like a fullback, like a wing back, really cutting back, often squaring it to the likes of Kevin De Bruyne or Foden. And if anything, I think I can see when Man City go on a riot and score 4, 5, 6 goals, Jesus and Bernardo Silva, because they're either deep or out really wide, I feel like they're going to be the ones assisting the assister. So for me, if you are a Jesus and Bernardo Silva owner, they are sells for now. Obviously, some of us have got other fires to put out with the likes of James at Chelsea being injured and a few others. But for me, I'm looking to get rid of potentially both of them in advance of Gameweek 21, which the deadline is tomorrow at 11. And actually, I'm swaying towards using my wild card, which I'll walk us through later. So as I've put there, both assist and the assister, I think Foden's the main man really, and I think if you wanted to double up stats wise, there are better options than Bernardo Silva with this whole stats versus the eye test. I think this is a good example of the stats returning to the norm, and the results on the pitch returning to the norm, and the freakish sort of goals and assists that Silva's been getting are now returning to the norm. As I mentioned at the start of the video, Kevin De Bruyne are now looking like back to his best, hitting in first-time balls into like world-class balls like only he can really do at the moment. However, a caveat I would put if you're going to get him in maybe as a Salah replacement is, at the moment, it doesn't look like KDB is nailed on pens. In previous seasons, we've seen the big Belgian. He's dominated on penalties if, say, Aguero's not on the pitch. Now, certainly in the last game, or was it, sorry, the last game, we saw examples of both Mahrez and Sterling being fouled and being allowed to take their penalties. Now, in previous occasions, we've seen both Mahrez and Sterling hit pretty bad pens and been taken off them. But at the moment, from that game at least, we're looking at if you're fouled for a pen, you're taking the pen as well. So not great for Kevin De Bruyne. I think if Kevin De Bruyne had taken the last 2 or 3 pens in a row, I'd almost have him as a must own. But for me at the moment, it's still a bit wait and see. I can still see him getting the odd goal and the assists ticking over, and him ending off the season with 15, 20 assists. He's that kind of player. But I think for that price point, that 11 to 12 million, if he's not on pens, it's wait and see. Dennis owners for Watford striker. He's going to AFCON. He's not going to AFCON. He might be going to AFCON. He's not going to AFCON. And now it looks like he's not going to AFCON, but there's a possibility that Nigeria actually might stop him playing while they're in the cup. So again, wait and see. I'm a Dennis owner as well myself, so I'll keep a close eye on that one. And finally, a couple of quotes have come out from Lukaku in the last 24 hours saying that he's not enjoying it at Chelsea and that he wants to return to Italy. So I know Lukaku isn't a massively highly owned player in FPL at the moment, but there aren't loads of premium forwards, and he might be someone that you're looking at. Out of the 3 premium forwards, it probably goes Kane, Ronaldo, and then possibly Lukaku might be entering your thoughts at some point. So I think that's definitely stayed clear. We'll see what Tuchel's like and how he reacts to that. And as we've seen over the course of this 21-22 season, actually the goals haven't really come from the likes of Werner or Lukaku. We've seen it come from their wing backs. We've seen it come from midfield. So interesting. and I wonder how it will play going forward. Okay, so this is my watch and buy list. I put this together actually before the double game week was announced today, and it's quite interesting in the fact that I think it remains the same. So I would put this in order. So in first place, I've got Bowen, and you'll notice that they're all midfielders at the moment. So in first place, I've got Jarrod Bowen for West Ham. I must admit, as a United fan, I went to see Man United play West Ham in the Carabao Cup back in, I think it was back in, was it September, October? And fair enough, it was a slightly second string team from both Man United and West Ham. However, Jarrod Bowen was so, I hate to use the word lively, but when he was on the ball, skinned 2 or 3 men, he was setting up chances, he was having shots. I remember at the time thinking, this guy's quality. It was actually Lanzini that came on as a sub to score the goal that knocked us out of the cup. But I remember at the time thinking, this guy is a quality player. There's a guy in the Twitter community called FPL Fella, always goes on about Jarrod Bowen, and rightly so. And after having seen him in the flesh, he's a quality player. I don't know why I haven't got him in sooner. These screenshots were taken, I believe, yesterday. Early today, yesterday. So as you can see, 13% ownership, relatively low. However, after the double game week announcement today, by game week 21 deadline, I expect that to be at least 20%. And when you consider the active versus non-active accounts, I think with active accounts, it's probably going to be closer to 40%. Fantastic player. Obviously, game week 20 scoring 14 points, close to approaching that 100-point point tally for the season. And you know, I don't know what you guys think, but I do keep one eye on the stats that that FPL give us. So the ICT index, so it's influence, creativity, threat, which is combined, and then you've got an overall ICT for all players throughout all positions. And I think it is something to keep an eye on. I wouldn't make decisions based purely off this, but if you're 50-50 between a couple of players, it's worth noting. So overall for players, and that's 8, it's worth noting that these stats are built up over the season and it is dependent on minutes played. So if you've got a fantastic player who's been off for half the season and then starts playing again, it's going to be really hard to get back into sort of these top figures. But as you can see, I mean, top 4 midfielders for threat, top 6 for ICT index and midfielders over, and for all players 8th overall. So it's decent. And as I mentioned, there's the double game week. West Ham have got some nice fixtures. The guy's banging form. He's right at the top of the list for me. Also worth noting that when Antonio is injured or rested, he's often played as a forward. I think sometimes almost like it's a false 9. In my second place, I've got Heung-min Son. We know how reliable this guy can be. Although Spurs haven't been firing on all cylinders since Conte arrived, they're looking a lot tighter. They are starting to get more attacking. The stats are getting better. They're having way more shots on target, way more shots in the box. And this guy, obviously much higher team selected by with 26%. And again, I can see this going up again before the game week 21 deadline as Spurs play Watford, who are looking a bit leaky at the moment. Again, with great stats there from a FPL point of view, in terms of, you know, he's basically what FPL are saying is he's the 5th best midfielder from an ICT point of view, and from all players, he's got an ICT index of 7, which is just one above Bowen there. And finally, Phil Foden. A lot of people picked Phil Foden to be a must-have going back to sort of game week 8, 9, 10 when he was starting to get a regular look in. But obviously, Pep Guardiola being someone that you cannot second guess. Then there's the almost intangible things like the disciplinary thing recently that him and Jack Grealish missed a couple of games for. Started again the other day against Brentford, looked lively, took his goal really well from the Kevin De Bruyne assist, and yeah, looks like he's really enjoying his football. If you watch any of their games, he often seems the furthest forward. It is like a false 9, and he's one that I want to get in. Again, as I mentioned before, his sort of FPL stats will be lower compared to these other players because he's played fewer minutes overall this season, but I wouldn't let you put that off he's one that I definitely look to get in sooner rather than later, despite the fact as well that City haven't been given any double game week so far. So, double game week, everyone's talking about at the moment. So the teams that have got double game weeks now for game week 21 are Brentford, Everton, and West Ham. So they're not the premium teams that we'd maybe like to jump on, like your Chelseas, your Liverpools, your Cities. However, we've got West Ham, who are doing well. You know, they keep playing like they're doing at the moment, and they can be serious contenders for the top four. Everton, they have been disappointing under Rafa Benitez. However, they're just embarking on a period of green fixtures all the way down until I think it's February, possibly even later. So they've also got this chap, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, returning from injury. It looks like he's squad ready, but I don't know if he's going to start. So we'll have a conversation later, but I think he might be worth plumping for. And then finally, Brentford. A lot of people have been loyal to Ivan Toney. I think overall a slight disappointment with how he's done. Obviously a great player, but FPL-wise hasn't quite got the returns everyone's been hoping for. But with a double game week fixture, maybe worth looking at. It's also worth highlighting at this point that according to Ben Crellin, which I'm sure a lot of you will follow, but those of you who don't, I recommend you, if you haven't already got Twitter, get Twitter, just set up an account, and there's a guy called Ben Crellin. Have a look for him. The guy's a genius, and what he does is, given the information that's given by the Premier League, he works out, and obviously Champions League games, Europa League games, Cup games, etc. He works out the probabilities of when double game weeks and blank game weeks are going to fall, and helps us preempt this. So in the sort of the Twitter FPL community, the guy is an absolute legend. So I thoroughly recommend following him. However, you know, for those of you who don't want to do spreadsheets, those of you who don't want to overanalyze, I think, again, I totally get that. So if you deal with the information that's in front of you, we know that we've got these double game weeks coming up for game week 21. Why not capitalize on that now? Why not double down and have a look at some, if not more, of these players? So game week 21, we know it's a double with the teams I've just mentioned. So what do we do? Do we use our free transfer or transfers if those of us that have carried two across? Do we think about taking hits, a -4, -12, more? Again, it's New Year's Eve, so just be careful if you're drinking any of this stuff before you make some serious decisions. He says before potentially doing his wildcard later. Do we use a free hit? I myself personally used a free hit for game week 19. Do I regret using it? Potentially. There was, I think, 11 or 12 point marked improvement on my previous squad. But like a lot of people, captained Salah, and no, that beg your pardon, I didn't captain Salah. I captained Ronaldo, who blanked, and all in all, it didn't go particularly well. So, I don't think you can say there's a right time or wrong time to use a free hit. Sounds like a cop out, but it will completely depend on your team, what state you're in, what position you're in your mini leagues, and kind of what your goals are, and how you play your game, how risk averse you are. I'll be honest, if I hadn't have played my free hit already, like obviously as you know, I'm sure we have 2 free hits this season for the first time ever due to the COVID situation, I'd be probably playing my free hit for game week 21 in all honesty. And then finally, wildcard. It's something I'm seriously considering. I'm not particularly happy with my squad at the moment, and I'm not just doing it as a knee jerk to these 3 double game weeks for Brentford, Everton, and West Ham. I'm actually doing it because I think my squad long term going forward isn't very good. But I'll show you that in a minute, and hopefully it's something that can help you guys out as well. So yeah, so my state of play. Interestingly, this was a free hit / wildcard mock-up I did again a day or two ago before the double game weeks were announced. So, you know, as you can see, I've got in Taylor for Burnley there because I think Burnley are one of the teams that have the most games in hand. So although their fixtures aren't amazing coming up, they're going to have, you know, several double game weeks you'd imagine throughout the season. I've got in Davis there. Doesn't have to be Davis, but I think the Spurs defenders are really well priced, between 4 and 5 million. there are the likes of Regulon, who I think is sort of a bit higher, 5.53 I think he is at the moment. But on the whole, I think they're good value. I'm keeping Alexander-Arnold and Cancelo despite the kind of unfavourable fixtures and the non-double game weeks, just because I think they're quality players, their attacking returns and chance of clean sheets are too good. I've got a cheap 4-4 in Allen from Everton. He might get a chip in with the odd goal or assist, but again, that's mostly caused by the double that was announced. But 9 times out of 10, he's going to be my second or third sub. Keeping Jota along with Alexander-Arnold and Cancelo. But those 3 players I mentioned before are on my kind of watch or buy list. Son, Foden, Bowen. Kind of kicking myself, I haven't got them in earlier. My rank has suffered for it. So again, reasons I want to get them in. And as you can see with Son and Foden, they haven't got doubles, so they're more long-term picks. And in these drafts, I've got Kane, which my latest draft I haven't. Have got Calvert-Lewin in this one. Bit of a punt, but now with the double game week, feels a bit more promising. And again, Wood in these drafts because the additional game weeks for Burnley. I think he falls out in my latest draft, and I've got Antonio here in one of them, who will almost definitely stay now, given the double game week for West Ham. Okay, so I'm going to go across now to my teams. So this is my squad at the moment. So I mean, just to give you a bit of perspective, I guess, I'm about 30k at the moment. Yeah, 30,208. So I was about 11k 2 or 3 game weeks ago. So actually, I've suffered the last couple of game weeks, and it's possibly been on the fact of moving too slowly. I think trying to consolidate my position, which maybe in hindsight I should have pushed on for a bit more aggressively, a bit less dullard, and taken some risks. So, I look at this squad, and even as a Man United fan, I said a couple of months ago, don't get Man United defenders until we start keeping clean sheets, and we still haven't. We're not keeping clean sheets. So I think if I do play my wildcard, De Gea's gone. Alonso, obviously, less of a priority to get rid of now because we know that James is injured as one of the other Chelsea fullbacks. However, long term, given the fact that Chelsea face Liverpool and then City and Tottenham at home, it's not an easy fixture, and then there's the prospect of a couple of blanks, and it's an avoid for me. So I'm looking to get rid of Marcos Alonso. Definitely thinking of getting some Chelsea assets, as we enter into March here. We see these lovely green fixtures, but for now I want to get rid of Alonso. Possibly even want to get rid of Ben White as well and be a bit more aggressive and target the doubles. Smith Rowe, despite the fact that he's been scoring off the bench for 3 in a row, which is crazy. Again, one that I'd look to get rid of. So actually, when you add these up, there's a lot of work to be done. Bernardo Silva, I mentioned before, integral quality player, really rate him as a player. But with Kevin De Bruyne back into that with Kevin De Bruyne back into that City side, Foden playing that kind of false 9, he's doing great work. He's linking up play, but from an FPL point of view, I think he's a sell or certainly don't buy. Basuma, I believe he's going to be after AFCON soon, and he's just served his 5th match suspension anyway, but still he's a sell for me. I think probably in favour of someone like Alan for like a 4-5 or around about that price point. Now here's a big one. Mohamed Salah, obviously still the most highly owned player in the game by a long shot. Playing Chelsea away, so Chelsea aren't playing fantastic at the moment. Are Chelsea going to be rolled over and concede 3-4 goals? With Salah, never say never. However, I would certainly be keeping him if it wasn't for AFCON. But however, as he will be going with Egypt as it stands, I think for me, if you're on a free hit or you're on a wild card, I think he's a sell, personally. So for the purpose of this, I'll pop him out. Jesus, I've already mentioned, he's working hard, he's playing wide. But then saying that, if I had to predict Pep Roulette, I would probably guess, probably wrongly, but I would guess that he's going to be dropped in the next game. Given the squad depth that they have, and I think that price is just not good enough for his return. So Jesus is out for me. Antonio definitely staying, given the double this game week. Dennis is an interesting one. So as I mentioned before, might not be going to AFCON. However, might be prevented by Nigeria from actually playing for Watford. Again, for me, it's a wait and see. But he's certainly not a sell right now. I'd hold on to him, especially those of you that maybe jumped on early and maybe have got a bit of money locked in. Again, points over pounds any day. But I was quite late onto the bandwagon, and I got him for 5-4, and he's already 6-1. Looking at the FPL price changes, I think he could go up again tonight. So again, wait and see. I think if I was to wildcard, I'd probably keep him in, and then if he is, and we don't find out whether or not he's going to be stopped for playing for Watford, I'd take him out at a later date. So as you can see, for me personally, I'm looking at keeping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in my team, which is for me is more than enough reason to wildcard. So this is a draft I knocked up just before starting this video. The goalkeeping situation's a funny one. Fernandez, the Brentford goalkeeper, essentially I've got him in for the Gameweek 21, the double. That's it. I'll be honest, I'm not a massive fan of two playing goalkeepers, even if they are, budget 4-5 each, because I've been burnt so many times with choosing the wrong one. You know, you play the keeper who's playing a bottom 3 side, they concede 1 goal, and the keeper that you benched who's playing a top 3 side has a penalty save or accumulates save points, gets bonus. It's really tough. I'm normally a set and forget man, and if we weren't going through the doubles and this whole COVID uncertainty thing, I'd certainly not do it. But because we're seeing games called off at last minute, it's probably the first time I've played the game for about 11 years now. It's probably the first time I'd recommend, probably start if you're not already having 2 playing goalkeepers. Pope's maybe a little bit on the expensive side. Again, going back to that Burnley thing, as you can see, they've got loads of games. They've got 4 games to be rescheduled, so they could have potentially 4 double game weeks between now and the end of the season. Maybe a triple even as well. So, and again, goalkeepers are normally the players that get rotated the least. I'll quickly run through the rest of the team. I won't bore you. But Emerson Royale, I think he's a great pick for Spurs. As nailed on as you can get at this stage, and under 5 million. Those of you that watch, obviously, Reguilon was pulled at half-time. Sergio Reguilon, a few different theories as to why that was. Some people think it's because he got the yellow. Others believe it's because he wasn't following the directions from Conte. But for me, that 0.4 million difference, I'm going for Emerson Royale personally. Getting Dawson, again, not a sexy pick. One of the bombing fullbacks, more central defender. However, he's nailed, as we can see, and I'm quietly confident that he plays, those 3 games in the next 2 game weeks. So that's why, again, nailed West Ham defender under 5 mil. I think it's a no-brainer. TAA and Cancelo, they stay stalwarts, just the 2 best attacking defenders in the game. Say no more. Everton. Now, Everton defender, I've got Keane here in this draft. As you can see, Everton have not got many clean sheets throughout the season at all. Keane's played every single minute, every single game, and he's got 3 clean sheets. 55 points, it's really quite low, it's quite poor. However, I like the look of these fixtures over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game weeks. We've got 7 fixtures, and as you can see, except for Leicester, they're all teams in the bottom 10. So I think he can pick up some clean sheets, hopefully some attacking returns in that period. Again, I won't go over this. We've already touched on Bowen, Son, Foden, great picks. I'm late to the party, so I want to get them in. Here's a bit of an interesting pick. I've gone for Damari Gray. Started the season really excitingly, 3 goals in 4 games at the start of the season. Has died off, but it's still ticking along. Read a nice piece in I think it was the Telegraph a couple of weeks ago about him and other managers that have worked with him, and I think he's a really promising player. He's going to get better and better. And at that 5-5 price point, I think with a team, once you remove Mohamed Salah, which it's a weird thing to do, you can really spread the funds. It might result in more points on the bench, but he's a sort of player, the sort of price point that you could potentially bench him if you think maybe defenders, or you want to play all three and all three forwards, and you want to play four defenders. So a bit of a punt from me on Gray there, Demarai Gray. Calvert-Lewin, again, bit of a punt because actually he's not fit yet. He's not played a minute of football since, God, when was that? Game week 3. So what's that? September. So we really don't know when DCL is going to start playing again. Yeah, first game's on the 2nd of Jan. The good news is if he doesn't play or maybe comes off the bench in the Brighton game, you're looking at the fact that he's got over a week to recover, or to keep recovering before the Leicester game. Even if he doesn't play many minutes or any in those, I wouldn't freak out, because then we're looking at this lovely period in January and February where they've got Norwich away, Villa at home, Newcastle away, Leeds at home, Southampton away. There's goals there. I think they're going to need to play him. They can't keep him cotton wool. Everton are dying for goals, so I think he plays. And as I mentioned, Antonio with a double coming up. Hopefully he's going to start scoring some goals. Hasn't for a while. And Dennis for me is a wait and see. And the beauty of this draft is I've got nearly 3 million in the bank, so it means that I've got paths to getting Salah back if Egypt are knocked out of African Cup of Nations pretty early doors. So that's me. I hope that's been informative for you guys. Thanks for watching if you have. I've been Rocky and Chester. This is FPL News. Have a great one, and yeah, Happy New Year. Cheers.